It's time for the Hockey Minute, your source for all of today's hockey news with some opinion. Strap in for the fastest news in the NHL. This episode is proudly brought to you by fucking nobody. We don't have any sponsors. Now, here's your hosts, Brandon and Ryan. And here we are. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Hockey Minute. I am your host, Brandon. With me, as always, my co-host, Ryan. And today, we have a very special episode for you. We're doing part 2 of our Metro Division breakdown. We're going to cover the Devils, the Carolina Hurricanes, the Rangers, and the Islanders. But first, let's say hi to our co-host. Ryan, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great. My face is cold because in quarantine I decided to shave for the first time in about 7 years. And, oh man, that beard can't grow back fast enough. You ever shave your face and you're just like, is that how I look?
Oh, so it's brutal.
I live alone, so thankfully, I'll be okay. I'm still single. It doesn't matter anyways. How are you doing?
I'm good, man. I lived up in the Arctic for quite a few years, and I'm almost always bearded, but there were a few times in minus 40 that foolishly I decided to shave, and oh my God, it is amazing the protection that a beard provides.
Oh, man.
Go ahead, boss.
Oh, I was just going to say, too, the other, when you don't shave for 7 years, you start hacking away at your face. I look like Freddy Krueger right now. It's just... Oh, it's just awful. So thankfully, this is just an audio format. We haven't quite decided if we're going to go into video yet.
That's it.
But we're going to cover the part 2, the back half, and the New York teams and Carolina. So
that's it.
I'm looking forward to this because, we're going to have some pretty harsh opinions on some of these teams, I think.
Yeah, we're kind of, part 1 was, let's say, the upper echelon, and we didn't really do it this way on purpose. But part 2 is... these teams need some work. We're going to start with the New Jersey Devils. And for me, going into the season, I thought they would be better than they were. I didn't predict that they were going to be. I don't think anybody could have seen how bad they would be. They had Subban. They had just got the first overall pick, which they had lucked into with Taylor Hall. It seemed like they were kind of going for it as best they could. And personally, I predicted they would probably be a wild card team, if not a little bit better. Obviously, it didn't work out that way. But how did you see it going in, Ryan?
Well, I had high expectations. The Devils and the Rangers were the two. They're division rivals. They're state rivals. I don't know if they're state rivals, actually. I'm Canadian. I don't know American geography, but I kind of felt like they get, Devils are picking number 1, Rangers picking number 2, and then the Devils, Ray Shero did such a great job. Why they fired him, I have no idea. Yeah. But he goes out and they take Jack Hughes number 1, and there was a lot of, he's going to be the next Patrick Kane. Patrick Kane, if you don't recall, had 70 points as a rookie, won Rookie of the Year. Mm-hmm. Jack Hughes took 4 weeks to get his first career goal. They get PK Subban. They signed Wayne Simmons for 1 year, and I really had high expectations. Corey Schneider is a good goalie, and they got some good complementary pieces. Palmieri, he sure keeps getting better. Miles Wood, James Franco, he looks like he's a good middle six guy, and it just fell so hard, so fast. Like I said, they fire Shero, and it's just I don't know what to make of this team anymore. Mm-hmm. Shout out to my cousin who was pulling his hair out this year, diehard Devils fan. Oh, no idea why. and reading the breakdown too. Our writer Jules is a diehard Ranger fan, and at first I thought she's being a little bit too harsh on the Devils, and then I realized no, she's bang on. Right. This team sucks.
They really do.
So I don't know, man. I know you have some thoughts, but what are they doing? Are they rebuilding, or are they retooling, and they think they've got somewhere to go?
Didn't it feel like they were kind of going for it, but with a first overall pick from the last year? It's so bizarre. So bizarre.
There were people saying this team's a playoff team. They're going to make some noise. It was like they just picked first overall. But
yeah. Granted, they jumped, pretty far to grab that first overall pick. But it felt like everything they touched this year kind of turned to shit. From my perspective, Jack Hughes, while he may be a very good player going forward, he had no business being in the NHL at his size, at his age. this current trend of first overall picks being earmarked to play the following year did him absolutely no good. Hopefully they didn't hurt him too much in the long term. I have a feeling he's going to bounce back. It seems like a really good hockey family. Shout out to the Canucks. But I mean, I can't think of a first overall pick in the last 20 years that's performed worse in his inaugural season. And then you take it down from there. I mean, PK Subban had an atrocious year. Like, I'd never expected him to fall off the cliff that he fell off of. Taylor Hall just seems to not bring any teams up, despite being, a tremendously skilled player in his own right, but doesn't seem to be the number one superstar on a team that can bring everybody to his level. I mean, his Hart Trophy year aside. I know we're trying to touch on some bright spots before we get into what's going wrong with the Devils, but I honestly, I'm struggling here to find anything.
Well, and Jack Hughes, your point about him being, I don't want to say rushed, but we've become so accustomed to guys jumping in right away. I mean, you think of the last 4 or 5 drafts. Okay, McDavid, well, there's no brainer, number 1 pick. Austin Matthews, no brainer, number 1 pick. Nico Hischier, I mean, as a rookie, he had a decent year, and so it's a no brainer. Rasmus Dahlin, Jack Hughes coming in, like. For Hischier, I don't see him being a true number 1, and I think they have Jack Hughes pegged as the number 1 center, and he's not ready. So it's like, do you push Hischier into the number 1 role and hope it works out, and you give Jack Hughes second line minutes, or do you maybe put Kyle Palmieri as the number 1 center, and Hischier is your number 2, and then Hughes is buried on the third line? Like, I don't really know, and it's so hard for him to. Like, it sucks for Jack Hughes, and we're kind of ripping on him. It might sound that way, but he's an 18-year-old coming into the NHL, and there was a bit of fanfare around the pick too. And it's just tough because it's like, on top of that, you mentioned they trade Taylor Hall away. Well, there's a guy that I thought, man, Jack Hughes is going to be dishing the puck to Taylor Hall. Like, Jack Hughes is going to get 60 points this year as a rookie, and they trade Taylor Hall, and it's like, well, okay, now who's he got? So. I don't know, man. It's just, I would be very curious to be a fly on the wall when they decided to fire Ray Shero, because he deserves none of the blame, in my opinion.
No.
He went out, he made all the moves that he had to in the off season, and PK Subban, shout out to PK Subban for putting a video up, like, promoting his brand when the team had lost like 4 in a row.
Oh, buddy. So tone deaf.
It's the most tone deaf merch release I think I've ever seen, or like lifestyle video. Like, here's my crib, by the way, we got blown out by the Islanders the other night.
But have you seen how rich I am?
Yeah, right. So, I mean, I respect PK for the hustle, but he when you're making $9 million a year and you're coming in expected to be the number 1 defenseman on the team, sometimes you maybe got to put the side projects away and just focus on hockey and just being better. And I say that with respect to Subban. He's a Norris Trophy winner and Olympic gold medalist. Like, he in his prime was a fantastic player, but the Devils need him right now, and he just needs to maybe just take a step back from his other interests for now. Until they can right the ship there, because he's going to be a big part of that moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's got 2 years left at $9 million a year, and if he's going to play the way he's been playing, that's pretty much going to handicap them until he's off the books. So he's going to have to find some way to get better. How do you see them getting out of this mess? Is there anything that stands out?
I don't know. I don't. You got to hope that Jack Hughes can progress nicely, develop nicely. That's all I have, man. Honestly. and kind of
on the Nico Hischier, Jack Hughes front. Like, are they going to kick Hughes to the wing to let him kind of shed some responsibility and gain some experience? Or, I mean, I still think he could do with a year in the A. I really do. I mean, but they're never going to do that for him.
No.
So it's like, what's the second best option for him?
Yeah.
Maybe it is a little bit of sheltering on the wing, or maybe it's bringing in another center to let him play reduced minutes on a second line with Hischier. they're really in a tough spot to be able to make any moves going forward. We haven't even mentioned Corey Schneider yet for for the Devils, and like, I mean, I love Schneider. Shout out to the Canucks, and he just, I mean, fell off a cliff, as we all know, right? I think he went a full calendar year without having a win.
Yeah, which
like he just,
like the calendar year thing's just kind of stupid because they don't play for 4 or 5 months.
Well,
I agree. Like it's a bad look, but I mean, people were, and for goalies, there's such head cases too that I felt bad for Schneid's because I thought, mentally, like the guy's, he's got injuries. He's trying to get back. He's just trying to play. And you got people saying, well, he hasn't won a game in a calendar year. Well, look at his team. And he didn't win a game in July. And neither did Carey Price.
Right.
That sort of thing. He's lost the net. Blackwood's emerged as the number one goalie for New Jersey. And I don't know, is Mackenzie Blackwood the answer?
Yeah.
I mean, it remains to be seen, but it's hard to tell when a goalie's thrust on a team that has nothing going for them. Like, I don't know. I've been pretty critical. So.
All right. So, I mean, for me, giving them a grade for the year, I didn't expect them to be, bad, but I expected them to be middle of the pack. The fact that they ended up being as bad as they were, I'm giving them an F. I think they're probably, in my opinion, probably the worst team this year. I mean, I know Detroit, obviously, Yzerman has been doing everything he can to kind of guarantee a first overall pick. But as far as the teams, the disparity between the expectations and the result, I don't think anybody's fallen further than the New Jersey Devils.
Yeah, same. I give them the grade that I got in grade 11 math, C-. So.
Oh, beauty. So that's why neither of us are advanced stats guys.
That's right. I could never run a salary cap. So
that's it. So we're going to move on to the Carolina Hurricanes. And I mean, for me, going into this year, Carolina wasn't a team I really thought of a lot in previous years until probably Rod Brind'Amour got there, really, as a coach. And I mean, since then, they're an awesome team to watch. There's so much fun. That back end can move the puck like crazy. They're great skaters. And I expected them to be a cup contending team this year. I thought that they would really make a good push. What did you think when you were going into the year?
Yeah, they made the Eastern Conference Finals last year, so I expected them to just build off of that. Mm-hmm. Because when you look at their core for the forwards, they got, I know, man, this is a name I pray to God I don't say the wrong thing. Martin Nikas.
Right.
So you got him. He was a top pick in 2017, and then you've got Svechnikov, who was the number 2 overall in 2018. Sebastian Aho, who's, he had a bit of a scare with the offer sheet, but Tom Dundon stepped in and was like, of course we're going to match that. That's our best player. Yeah. And then their blue line is stacked. Even before the trade deadline where they loaded up on more defensemen. So This is a team with a lot of promise. And I like what you said about their blue line because they have guys that are elite shutdown defensemen, but then you have a guy like a Dougie Hamilton that can put up 50 to 60 points and gets you that power play quarterback that you need. So this team's got a very, very bright future ahead of them.
Oh, and just what a player Svechnikov is going to be. Like, you can tell, man, that guy is going to be an absolute beast. Like, he's huge with the softest hands. I can't. I'm so excited to watch him play for years, honestly. Like, I really think he's going to be one of the premier players for a long time. Yeah,
if you take Dahlin out of the picture, Svechnikov goes number 1. And I don't say that because he went number 2. Like, it obviously makes sense. He would have been a surefire number 1 pick, even if, in hindsight, 2017.
Right.
I think he goes number 1.
Yeah.
He's got the size, he's got the creativity, first player to score a lacrosse goal, and then it got to the point where he was just doing it like every other game for a couple of weeks there, to the point where I just became unimpressed with it because he made it look so easy. And he's going to be one of the best goal scorers. And the only thing is he plays in Carolina, and people aren't going to know how good he is until at the end of the year you're going to see he's top 10 in goals, and you're going to go, holy smokes, this guy's unbelievable.
Exactly. Like I see him as this next generation's Sasha Barkov as far as the acclaim that he gets versus what he should get.
Yeah. Yeah. Every Reddit post is going to be, who's the most underrated player? And it'll be Svechnikov
Exactly.
for like 10 years.
Exactly.
So,
yeah, until we're all dying. All right. So how do you see them going forward? Do you think that they're going to be on the upswing or on the downswing in the coming years?
Upswing, totally. I mean, I'm looking at their top scorers. Aho, 66 points in 68 games. Teravainen, who just quietly puts up like he had 48 assists in 68 games. So over a full season, he's getting you 50 assists.
Right.
Svechnikov's the sniper. Dougie Hamilton, Slavin on the back end. And the depth pieces too. I mean, Dzingel was a free agent signing that I think is just kind of, he's Ryan Dzingel. Like, you don't expect too much.
Yep.
He's a good middle six guy, and guys like Nino Niederreiter, Jordan Stahl's their captain there. So I think that this team, they've got the depth pieces they need. Their blue line's fantastic. Their goaltending with Mrazek and with James Reimer was there as well. Mrazek, maybe this is, I don't know. Is Mrazek good enough, do you think, to just be good enough to steal games here and there, but he'll win you games? He won't lose you games, but he'll just win you games.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure Carolina had one of the best tandems in the league last year as far as their load share and their win percentage and stuff. But again, I think a huge part of that, like our previous episode when we covered Washington, is the team in front of him is just so freaking good. I mean, they won. I heard Brian Burke talking about the game in which backup goalie, I think you just said it, David Ayres, right?
Are you talking about the Zamboni driver?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But when he came in that game against Toronto, and Brian Burke was referring to that game, he said that was the second and third period was the best defensive game he's ever seen any team play.
Yeah.
Like just with how, their positioning and everything and how much of a buy-in they had. I mean, that's such a good team. I think they can get by with just middling goaltending, and I'm pretty sure that that's kind of how they plan on moving it forward. But I mean, I think it's going to be successful. I really do. I can absolutely see them in a cup final in the next year or two.
Well, and to your point about that Toronto game too, like that game, I remember sitting on my couch watching that game and just thinking, this is the epitome of a team that cares about each other. Is that because they could have sat back and gone, shit, we got a 42-year-old emergency goalie, and they were blocking shots. They went on the offense, and Rod Brindamore, I don't think he's Jack Adams worthy yet, but if this team keeps growing the way they're growing, then we're going to be talking about him as one of the best coaches in the league. Oh,
totally. Did you happen to catch his speech after that game when he came into the locker room?
Yeah, it was amazing.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, I was fired up. I was just getting ready to spray my kids with champagne, but that's frowned upon. So how would you grade them in this previous season? I mean, for me, I think it's pretty easy to give them an A. Just over all the things that we went, it's honestly hard for me to find a weak spot. I mean, I kind of feel bad for them. They lost Dougie Hamilton, picked up Sami Vatanen in a trade to try and replace him, and now they're looking at Sami Vatanen just walking. But hard to fault them for any of that. I mean, I'm not going to blame Carolina on COVID. So, giving them the A.
Yeah, I give them an A as well. And I mean, the trade deadline, they got Batten and they got Brady Shea as well. They were all in this year. I think they were really planning on making a push. So it is unfortunate for the fan base because thinking back to 2006, that fan base was pretty rowdy. But like you said, unfortunately, it took a pandemic to stop us, or to stop them, I should say.
I see you're jumping bandwagons already.
No.
All right. So next up for us, we're going to cover the New York Rangers. And I mean, from my perspective, I didn't think that they were going to be very successful this year. I mean, looking back, Jeff Gorton has done just an incredible job positioning this team to be successful and hastening their rebuild. But I still thought that they were a few years away. I did not expect them to be anywhere close to competing for a playoff spot or for a wild card spot. So, how did you see them coming into the year?
Well, I had them kind of similar to the Devils. It was such an interesting back and forth those two teams had because they get Kakko, and then, the Devils go out, they get PK Subban, and the Rangers got Jacob Trouba. And on top of that, the Rangers landed the biggest free agent in Artemi Panarin, and they paid him a lot, and I thought it was going to be an overpayment. But Artemi Panarin is shown that he's one of the best wingers in the NHL, and he drove the bus for the Rangers. So I think that they exceeded expectations that I had for them, but I think for a lot of pundits, I think they had them as a potential playoff team or a bubble playoff team.
Yep.
It's just a matter of their goaltending, and I don't know if you want to dive into that because it's a three-headed monster right now, but it's just tough because you have a legend, and he might be the odd guy looking in.
Yeah, it's a really good point, and it's such a delicate thing when a man has been the face of your franchise for so many years and gotten you so close to the promised land over and over, and now it's like, well, we're actually kind of better without you. Sorry.
We know we're paying you $8 million a year, but
and I mean it was kind of his decision, his Lundqvist decision to go basically down with the ship, and credit to the team for turning it around so fast that he actually has a chance of still playing with them while they're competitive. But I mean, like we're speaking of before, I think it's going to be Shesterkin and Georgiev that are going to be the two main goalies, and Lundqvist is going to be the odd man, kind of looking out sooner than later. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out. And just quickly on the Artemi Panarin thing, it's just I can't. I mean, I've been wrong on him constantly for his whole career. I mean, when he first came over, I thought you're a product of Patty Kane. And then everywhere he moves, it's like, well, you're not going to do it there. And he just keeps getting better. Like he's I think he's a legitimate superstar at this point. He's managed to drive that whole Rangers team, basically on his back, and look good doing it. So I mean, I'll wear the big wrong cap on that one.
Yeah. I mean, I thought he was going to be a good addition to that team, but I never predicted he'd get 95 points.
No.
He was 69 games, 95 points. Like he would have probably hit 110. And Mika Zibanejad, 41 goals this year. We talked about him before on past episodes. The 5-goal game against the Caps, and he's actually just
longest stick in the league, man. That fucking stick.
By the way, he's a DJ, and if you like house music, he actually just released a tune, so go check that out because it was pretty good.
Is it actually good?
I didn't mind it. Yeah,
no,
it's not the most complex thing ever, but he's got good vocals. On, anyways, we'll do a separate episode on that. But
year 4 of the pandemic, we'll be doing music breakdowns for the hockey players.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we'll know it's getting bad when it's like June and we're like, who's got a mixtape out?
Here's our Slapshot review part 2.
Yeah, but the rest of the team. The rest of the team looks good. He got the grit with guys like Lemieux, Chris Kreider. I mean, they re-signed him. It's kind of speculation he might get traded, but he signs a 7-year deal. And I think overall the team, I don't think they're a contender yet. And I'm curious to see what their goaltending situation turns into, because if they do let one of their young goalies walk, how many years does Lundqvist have left? 2, 3?
I think it's 2, but while you're talking, I'll check real quick.
Well, I'm talking just as a player though, like as a goalie, You can count on. I mean, do you give him 2 or 3 more years?
Probably 2, but I mean, it's so hard, man. Like Luongo he looked like he was done for the last 4 years of his career, and he was fairly successful for every year. So we're in the 2019-20 season right now, obviously. Next year is the final season on Lundqvist's contract. So
yeah, and he was the only goaltender on the Rangers with a losing record, right? He went 10-12. Georgiev went 17-14. Shesterkin went 10-2. I mean, maybe there's your goalie of the future. So for Lundqvist, he's done a lot of great things. Took him to the finals in 2014, and they lost, obviously, to LA, but he's been, in the last 15 years, one of the best goaltenders in the NHL. He won a Vezina, probably, I think in 2012, I think he won the Vezina. So as much as he deserves to have his number retired and everything, I think that part of me wonders if he's going to be okay with not being the guy. And unfortunately, this is just what all athletes... We're seeing this right now with Tom Brady, for goodness sakes. Like, Tom Brady... The Patriots are going, we don't want you here. So if it happens to Tom Brady, no offense, but Henrik Lundqvist isn't quite on the same star power and same track record. And if I'm the Rangers, I'm looking at my two young goaltenders and I'm saying, these are the guys we got to move forward with. And I think that's the only way that they're going to be competitive. The question is, how do you get rid of Lundqvist and his massive deal?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I guess you just have to not sign him next year, right? You have to not extend him and then deal with it as it comes up, because obviously the expansion draft is at the end of next season, at the conclusion of next season, and you can't expose anybody if their contract is just expiring, obviously, because you can't play the following year. So maybe they'll try and do something with Lundqvist where they extend him to expose him or something. But they're gonna have to do something creative to keep them on the right track, because I really think that they're one of the up and coming teams in the league. Like I've said it a couple times now, but their GM is absolutely killing it. I mean, he gets a lot of credit for building the 2011 Boston Bruins that Chiarelli ended up taking to the finish line. But most of those main moves were made by Jeff Gordon, if you look into the deals. But I digress. How do you see them moving forward then, the Rangers? How do you see them getting better?
I think they just got to keep doing what they're doing. They got their... Yeah. The Rangers are never going to have an issue attracting free agents, but they've got a number one defenseman in Jacob Trouba. They've got their, Capo Caco, we didn't really talk about him. We don't really need to, but there's room for him to grow. And I think contrary to Jack Hughes, there's no pressure on Capo Caco right now. So you can allow him to develop. Zibanejad's turned into a great player in his time with the team. And then, like I say, we touched on the goalies as well. So I think they're moving up. I don't think that they're there yet, but I think that they're going to be probably 2-3 years from now a team to be reckoned with.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I mean, I may have some questions about Trouba being a true number 1D. If I had it my way, I'd probably see him as a 3-4 with somebody who makes a few less defensive lapses as a true kind of number one who can play both sides especially well. But I mean, from where they stand right now, I think Trouba can fit in admirably in that spot. I don't think he's out of place. I just think if it comes to being an actually contending team, you're not going to want Trouba in that position. I think he's going to get burned. But
yeah, that's fair.
So we're going to move on now to the New York Islanders, the final team in today's episode. And I mean, I'm going to be honest here. I watch at least a hockey game a night when the season's on, usually 2, sometimes 3, and you would have to have a gun to my head to watch an Islanders game most nights. The system that Barry Trotz plays, I respect it. I appreciate that it brings success, and if it were my team, I'd probably like it. But the fact that I get to choose what entertains me, and I know that doesn't, I just can't watch it. It's brutal. As far as their expectations for the season, I thought they would be really successful. They had the biggest turnaround in regular season history from the previous season, as far as their goal differential and how they'd tighten up defensively, but they just tightened it up so much that it was brutal to watch. I expected them to be basically a wild card team and then get burned come playoff time. How did you see it?
Yeah, I kind of the same as you. Like I felt they would get in, and then it would be a first round exit. And I think that's what we probably would have seen if they even made the playoffs. Mm-hmm. So it's like watching paint dry, and they're stifling one of the best players, or one of the best young players anyways. Yep. And Matt Barzal, who's coming up, his entry level deal expires in the summertime.
Offer sheet.
Oh, I mean, yeah. If you got cap and you're willing to give up, because the silly thing with these offer sheets, and people always say, well, yeah, but if you sign them to this, you give up 2 firsts and 2 seconds and a third or something like that. It's like when you go back and you look at drafts, how many of those players, first round picks, really pan out to be a Matt Barzal level player? And if I'm a GM, I'm looking at Barzal. He still had 60 points in 68 games, playing a system that he doesn't really belong in. And, this is unfortunately for him, he became the number one guy as soon as Tavares left. And, he had 63 points as a rookie. Not a true rookie, but he won the Calder. And then, he had 63 assists, but 85 points. To win a Calder. Then he had 62 points last year and then 60 points this year. So he's a guy that could get you a point per game. And the rest of the team, I don't know quite what to really make of them, right? I mean, Anders Lee, we've seen a bit of a regression for him. Brock Nelson's doing okay. He got a nice fat contract, and his numbers have climbed a little bit, but it's just like you said, trust. And I saw this with the Capitals. It was a very defensive, system-oriented game, and that'll get you a Stanley Cup when you have an Alex Ovechkin and an Evgeny Kuznetsov and a Nicholas Backstrom. But when you're stifling Barzal, who wants to freewheel, like, people don't realize Barzal, back when he was 13, 14, he was the Connor McDavid of Western Canada. And
absolutely,
I've watched this kid grow and become who he is today. And it's kind of weird to see him, I wonder how he's feeling about what he's playing in right now.
Yeah. Yeah, just a quick note on Barzal is, like, I'm a massive Ray Ferraro fan, and hearing him talk about Barzal, obviously Ray Ferraro is from the same area that we are, and he would watch Barzal coming up, I imagine, playing against Landon. But, when you talking about watching him play when he was young, and he was saying essentially he has incredible skill, but we'll see if he can do the things that he's doing at the NHL level. And he did. He still does, right? He still manages to skate that way. He's like a water bug out there. He's amazing to watch, and it's so disappointing to see him play in such a stifling system. I know Jules, one of our writers, is absolutely confident that Barzal is going to re-sign in the coming offseason with the Islanders, which should be a point of depression for all of us. But I'm, yeah.
Well, he's a restricted free agent. Like,
yeah.
He can sign an offer sheet, and Lou Lamoriello is going to Lou is the kind of guy that probably, like, a team will offer sheet Barzal, and Lou will send like a decapitated horse head to the other GM. Yeah. Not like a letter saying like, hey, we're gonna match the offer. Like, it's just more, it's just like, here's your dog's tail.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
in the mail. So.
Exactly. If you want to see Fluffy again, man, rescind that offer sheet.
Yeah. So Lou is, he'll, I mean, Barzal, I don't think is going to go anywhere. I would love to see the chaos if he signs some crazy Mitch Marner type, offer sheet.
That's what I'm here for. That's it. Sign the max, give them all the picks. Yeah.
Like, especially because the season's been canceled. Like, dude, give me something. Give us something to talk about, NHL, please.
Yeah.
But the thing about the Islanders that's so weird to me too is that they've got Barzal, you've got Lee, Brock Nelson, Jordan Eberle's a skill guy, and then it's like this mishmash. You got Komarov, Matt Martin, Ross Johnston, Cal Clutterbuck, Casey Cizikas. So you got all these tough guys, but it's like, this isn't the Islanders of the 80s anymore. You don't necessarily need to fill out your whole bottom six with guys that are not going to get you many points. They're just going to play physical. That's what killed the Islanders last year in the playoffs, is that they couldn't match Carolina's skill, and that's why their season didn't go as far as they thought.
Yeah, that's a good point, and that's one thing that I've been really starting to notice from a tactics perspective in team building is, again, here's your Canucks moment. But for example, what Travis Green would do is load up Pettersson with Besser and Miller, and then just hope the other three lines are a wash. And that's kind of what I see happening with the Barzal line. It's like, let's load up the ice with some big, strong guys who can clog the middle, and then pray that Barzal can do his magic and give us a 1-0 or a 2-1 victory. And then we'll wake our fans up with the final horn.
Now, one thing I think we do need to touch on, because there was a rumor about this, and I want to know your thoughts on this. Andrew Ladd for Zach Parise. That was a trade that at the deadline it was reported that it was going to happen, and then Lou kiboshed it because Lou hates when those things get out.
Oh yeah.
If this happens, though, is this a win for the Islanders, or is this a lose?
I mean, first, whoever leaked that definitely had their tires slashed, right? We're just accepting that fact.
Yeah.
And then I think that's such a lateral move. I almost don't know why you do it. Like, I mean, Cal Clutterbuck he's Cal Clutterbuck, right? Like, that's it.
But I'm talking Andrew Ladd for.
Oh, Andrew Ladd. Yeah, sorry. I mean, Andrew Ladd.
For Parise.
It's still the same. They're both making $7 million, right?
Yeah. Ladd's making 5.5 till 2022. Okay. 2023.
There you go.
But it's just that Ladd's...
Preze's the better player, obviously.
Preze's hurt a lot. Ladd's buried in the minors. So it's like... That's the thing. When that trade came out, or that rumor, I should say, I was sort of like, oh, what's the point? But I guess Lou and Zach are boys, so I guess
maybe that's all it is, or maybe it was a cap dump coming up or something. It's really so hard to tell, especially with Lou Lamoriello, who plays everything like so close to the vest.
Imagine if we could get Lou on the show.
Oh, it'd be 30 minutes of us talking and him quiet. It'd just be like this. We could just say this was featuring him.
Yeah, it would be this episode with like Lou just sitting there, just thinking of all the ways he's going to kill us later.
Just shaking his head disapprovingly. So, I mean, looking at the Islanders going forward, how do you see them getting out of this mess?
The only thing that they have that is a bright spot that could fix the short term. So they let Robin Lehner go last offseason. They signed Semyon Varlamov, and that was a move that made no sense at the time, but the long game on this is that they're trying to get that Russian goalie, and there's three of them in the Metro, and I think this is the Sorokin is his last name. So that was apparently, it's we're going to bring in this aging Russian goaltender to kind of be the mentor / big brother to this young Russian goaltender we have coming over. And from what I hear, this kid's really good. So that shores up your goaltending. The rest of the team, I think, is pretty much set. Their defense is it's not bad. You got Boychuk, you got Nick Leddy, is a good puck moving defenseman. Ryan Pulak's just got a cannon of a shot, and he's a pretty good two-way guy for you. And then, like we said, I think it hinges on Barzal and whatever Lou can make happen in the offseason through free agency as well. So
I mean, just considering the Matt Barzal offer sheet from the Lou Lamoriello perspective, just look at that roster and then imagine it without Barzal, and then you just know he's probably going to pay anything to keep that guy. Like that team is lost at sea without Matt Barzal.
Yeah, there's nobody that it's middle-aged as far as hockey goes, middle-aged guys, and then Barzal, and they're drafting, they've never really hit on their forwards, right? Michael Del Call had 4 goals, 10 points this year. Yeah. He was 5th overall in 2014. Like, it took him that long to get into the league and really become an established roster player. Yeah, Josh Hosang hasn't worked out. They got Noah Dobson a couple years ago in 2018, and he looks like a promising young defenseman, but Barzal is the offense, and they got to do whatever they can to keep him.
I do kind of wonder about Josh Hosang, if he could have a kind of an Anthony Duclair sort of resurgence in a different space. Maybe they're going to move on him and try and reclaim something, but his value is so low, and there's the perceived attitude issues. I don't know enough whether those are real or not, but that seems to be the thing that's hanging around his neck that you hear about, right? Seems to have a bit of a troublesome personality as far as people are concerned. But looking at the Islanders' overall season, I'd probably give them maybe a C plus, kind of something in that range, C plus. I expected them to be mediocre, and they were mediocre. That's about it for me.
Yeah, I give them same thing, right? C plus, B minus in that range, and. Like I said, I don't see them with the way that the Rangers and the Hurricanes are coming up. And we talked about our last episode, Capitals, Penguins, and Flyers. I don't think they're going anywhere. I just don't see where the Islanders fit. And I don't know if they've got enough momentum to keep going forward and still be competitive. So then again, I didn't think they'd make it to the second round last year. And between Barry Trotz's coaching and Lou's ability to construct a roster out of nothing, then, anything can happen, but I don't know, man. I don't see it happening for them anytime soon.
No, I see them being a middling team for the foreseeable future, basically. All right, guys, that's going to do it for us. Thanks, everybody, for listening to part 2 of the Metro Division breakdown. From Ryan, this is Brandon. You've been listening to the Hockey Minute.
We'd like to take a second and thank you, the listener, for joining us. And a big thanks goes to our writers and production team, Jules, Mark, and Matt. We couldn't do this without you. That's going to do it for us. This is Brandon and Ryan. We'll talk to you next time on the Hockey Minute.